hopefully any questions you have regarding any of our BD SPED programs will be answered through this session. That's the intention. Let me just quickly go through our agenda and then we'll get the program going. So there's going to be an introduction by Janet Kim. She is the recruitment specialist for the college, knows everything there is to know about every program there is. Um, so she'll go over the things that are true of all the programs, all three of these BED programs. These things will apply to all the programs. Then we'll have the directors of each individual program share briefly about their program so you can decide which breakout room to go to. At that point, we will set up breakout rooms and each director will speak about their particular program in detail. So you'll have to decide which program you're interested in pursuing. And you don't have to have a final decision today, but for that part, you'll have to pick one. And then we'll come back to Janet and she will go through with you how to apply. And if you have any questions, you can just put those in the chat and we will address them at some point during this presentation. And we're also recording this. So if you need to go back or somebody you know couldn't make it, they'll have access to this recording. Okay. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Janet.
All right, thank you, Steve. So, aloha, everyone. My name is Janet Kim. I serve as the College of Education recruitment specialist, and basically, my role is to help people kind of get information about becoming a teacher and really figuring out, well, which of the many, many, many different pathways would may be the best fit for you. And so, we're going to start off with just general information on things that's good to know related to becoming a teacher and doing any of our programs. And so I'll start with like some eligibility program information here. So basically, what you see on the screen are all of the undergraduate programs that are for teacher licensure here in the College of Education. And so within elementary, there's 6 different tracks. We do have a bachelor's in secondary, we have a bachelor's in special education, and we even have a bachelor's in health and PE. For today's session, we're really focusing on opportunities and pathways that lead to licensure and special education. And so you can see that 3 of the many, many programs that are available are being highlighted. And those are the ones that we're really going to focus on today so that you have a better understanding of whether or not one of these is going to be the best fit for you. So just to start off, I do want to point out that all of these programs that were just on the screen they're called SATEP, and what that means is State Approved Teacher Education Program. And I point that out because SATEPs are special. SATEPs means that you're not only getting your degree, so you're getting a bachelor's degree, but at the same time, you're meeting all of the licensure requirements so that as soon as you graduate from the bachelor's degree, you are a licensed teacher. And so all of the programs that we're going over, have already been pre-approved by the Hawaii Teacher Standards Board. And really what makes them different than, majoring in something else across the UH campus is you're not just taking coursework, but there's a fieldwork and student teaching component involved as well. And so, within the programs, they might look a little different and have different courses, but at the end of the day, all of these programs are going to lead you to not only earning your bachelor's degree, but you're going to get your teaching license as well. When you are picking your program, you really want to think about what you want to get licensed in. Not only the age group, we do have some early childhood options, we have elementary options and secondary options, but really thinking about the content of what you want to teach, whether that's elementary, because elementary you teach a little bit of everything, so it's its own content area. Same with early childhood. And then at the secondary level, you can specialize in a particular subject. Special education is its own licensure field. So if that's something you're interested in, then we do have programs and coursework specifically for that. I also want to add that in this pathway of considering teaching as a career, just know that there is something called an ADA field, and that means down the road after you complete your program, if your career interests change or you want to, change age groups or you want to change, what you're teaching, you can pursue it as an ADA field, and the College of Education actually has specialized ADA field programs available. So you can always look into that down the road. So if in your mind you're thinking, well, I want to teach all sorts of things, I would say just pick, 1 or 2 for the foundational part of becoming a teacher, and you can always look to add other things down the road. And I will say one of the biggest benefits of choosing teaching as a career is it's extremely portable. Hawaii is part of the NASDAQ agreement, but what's great is all states are now part of the NASDAQ agreement. So we want you to be able to stay here and teach here in Hawaii, but just know that if you do end up moving or relocating to another state, then as long as you got your Hawaii teaching license, you can take that Hawaii teaching license to another state and teach there. Every state might be slightly different. For example, New York does require a master's degree, so they would say you have a certain amount of time to get your master's. But all in all, just know that once you go through this process and you commit to it and you become a licensed teacher, um, that's what you can do for the rest of your career, right? And if things change and your situation changes, at least you can take that teaching license with you. How much are you going to make? So as a teacher, what's really nice is Hawaii has transformed their teacher salary over, I would say, the last 5 or 6 years. And so Hawaii really has taken a strong stance in really advocating to pay their teachers more. And so I'm going to kind of talk you through this so that you're aware of where we currently stand. So what you see on the screen is the Hawaii DOE initial starting salary schedule. So this is the 2024-2025 current academic year. And in order to read this and understand, well, how much are you going to make? Across the top is what they call classes. Classes are going to be dependent on the degree that you get, right? Your current level of education. So for all of you here today, we're looking at a bachelor's in education. The benefit is you're getting your bachelor's and your license at the exact same time, and you will enter at class 2. Okay. Other people, they go and get degrees and other things, and then they have to come back to school and do a whole other program to get their license. And that's why they have a class 3 here for people who do that through like a post-bac or a master's. But for all of you, because you know early on that you want to teach, you can take advantage of getting it right in your bachelor's degree and entering the pay scale on class 2. And then on the left side, they have something called steps. Um, the first step means that you're not actually licensed. So this doesn't apply to any of you. These are what they call, if you've ever heard someone say emergency hire, it means that they have a bachelor's degree, but they're not licensed, but they get hired in a classroom. For you guys can just skip and look at step 5, which is SATEP, that acronym I mentioned. That means you graduated from a licensure program. So most of you, as long as you don't already have previous years of teaching experience in like a private school, right? Private early childhood school. If this is going to be your first year teaching, then you will come in class 2, step 5. And so the current entry salary for brand new teachers is about $53,000. Okay. The DOE only credits up to 6 years. So if there are any of you who have been the teacher of record, let's say in an early childhood private setting, then you can get up to 6 years of credit towards your initial salary. And so at the most, you could be at 56,000 if you do have all those years. But most people that we're going to be working on, you're going to look at this 53,000 as your starting salary. But what's beautiful is once you're licensed and you complete our program, the salary scale gets a lot bigger and more complicated. But this is what I want you to know, okay? There are going to be 2 ways to make more money as a classroom teacher. The first is the steps, which are over here on the left. Let's say you get your bachelor's degree, you're licensed, and you never want to take another class in your life. You're like, I'm done. I'm gonna teach, but I'm not gonna, take professional development, go back for a master's. I just want to focus on my classroom and teach. The way this works is over time, you're gonna move up, right? So you're in that class 2, and over time, you're just gonna keep going up, 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 up. It caps the top of the pay scale is what we call a 14B step. And so if you did that, eventually, if you stuck with it long enough, you could make $78,000. Okay? But you have full control to get to the right of the pay scale. And the way you do that is by continuing to learn. So after you get your bachelor's degree, you might think to yourself, hey, I am interested in a master's degree. The College of Education has tons of master's degrees available. If you were to do that, the way it works is for every 15 credits that you take after you become a licensed teacher and start teaching, then you bundle up those 15 credits. You need to get it approved by your administrator, but the idea is you submit it and you reclassify, which means now you're bumping a class to the right of the pay scale. And so our master's degrees are always between like 30 to 36 credits. That's two pay bumps for coming back and getting a master's degree later. And when you decide to do that is up to you. But the faster you can earn 15 credits, 15 credits, 15 credits, 15 credits, 15 credits. What I'm showing on the screen is actually the 2026 pay scale because Hawaii just added a brand new class 8 that is going to start in 2026. So it'll be there by the time you guys graduate, and it's just an added layer of additional pay that you can have. And if you look at it, this 78,000 that you could have been making after 20, 30 years of teaching, you can make it very, very early in your career if you reclassify and bump yourself to the right of the pay scale. So just keep that in mind. Over time, you'll go up. And if you come back and you want to take more courses, the DOE has their own professional development system. Sometimes their courses are free. Just take it every 15 credits you get, submit it for reclassification, and bump your way to the right. What you want to do is you want to hit this top right where you're making a six-figure salary and still getting your summers off. Okay, so if you're committed to doing this and you want to be a teacher, teachers can get paid really, really well as long as you understand how the pay structure works. Okay, so we have a lot of teachers out there who make way more than professors do here at the university. So that's just the reality of it. It's a really good paying job if you stick to it and you work your way to the right. Okay, on top of that, and again, something that's very unique to Hawaii is Hawaii currently has a salary modernization plan where they give differential pay for the highest need fields and the highest need locations. And so for all of you who are here today, if you decide to become licensed in special education and you take a special education position, now wherever you are on that pay scale, you can add $10,000 extra a year. So special education teachers get the largest differential. If you can speak Hawaiian and you get hired in a Hawaiian language immersion school, you can get $8,000 extra a year. And then the last four are based on the actual geographic location. And so you'll see there's a lot on, Hawaii Island, different parts of Maui. On Oahu, it's the Nanakuli Waianae complex. But if you're interested and you want to teach in one of these complex areas, you can earn up to $3,000 to $8,000 extra, again, on wherever you happen to be on this salary. What's crazier about all of this, that Hawaii is the only state doing this, is these are even stackable. So if you want to be a Hawaiian language immersion special education teacher out on Molokai, which I have heard there is one, you can make $26,000 extra a year. And this is all, paid through the state. So as long as they continue this, it started right before COVID happened, but we've had it ever since. And I haven't heard elsewhere, but it does need to be approved annually in the state budget. But yeah, just things to keep in mind. There are really great incentives out there, especially for people who want to be special education teachers. So one question I commonly get is, what if I'm licensed in elementary and special education, and I'm the elementary inclusion teacher? Do I get the $10,000 pay differential? And the answer is no. because you're not in the special education line. You need to be, if you're the special education inclusion teacher, then yes, but not as the general education teacher. So you have to take a position that is specifically within special education, which means you're doing like care coordination and IEPs and all of those things as well. Okay, so that was a little bit just about teaching in general. And now let's go and talk, well, what do our programs look like and what can you expect and what's the differences kind of between them? If you have any questions about anything that was shared up to this point, go ahead and stick it in the chat and I will address it. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going. Okay, so here we are. So the way that the College of Education SATEP programs are designed is we have lots of options, but basically what's important to know at the undergraduate level is we packaged all of the SATEP requirements into the last 2 years of the bachelor's degree. So that means you could either do all 4 years at Manoa and get your bachelor's of education with your license, or there may be some of you who started at one of our community colleges in the state and you got, an associate's degree. You started getting your courses there. The beautiful thing is, at the end of the day, you end up with the exact same thing. So, when we're going to talk about our programs, we are specifically talking about those last 2 years of the bachelor's degree and what that's going to look like and what you're going to expect once you start the licensure part of our programs. Okay, so how are you going to be eligible? So in order to be eligible for the licensure part, which is the last 2 years, you need to already have 55 to 57 credits completed, which includes the UH Manoa like general ed core. You know how you have to take some science classes, some writing classes, some reading classes. You have to have all of those done. What's nice is if you did start at a community college, we do have some approved associate degrees, some AA degrees that already built in all of the general ed core. So then you got it, no worries. Transfer over, come to Manoa. You need to have a GPA of 2.75 or higher. You need to be able to have some prior experience so that we know that you want to work in education and with groups of children or young adults. And so there is that 40 hours of group leadership experience. It's pretty flexible. I get a lot of questions about the group leadership experience. It could be paid experience, it can be unpaid experience. The basic idea is it can't be one-on-one, so it can't be babysitting, it can't be one-on-one tutoring, but as long as you are in a situation where you are working with a group of school-aged kids at the age range that you want to get licensed in, those will count. And so it is pretty flexible. If you have any questions or you're kind of curious, do my experiences count? Just reach out and ask, and we can kind of help you out with that. So you need to have 40 hours done before you can start the program. You are going to have to pass an admissions interview. I will say the interview is going to look a little differently depending on which program you pick. So we'll kind of talk about that. And then there are some licensure track prerequisite courses. So that means these are courses you have to take on top of the UH Manoa General Ed Core and all the courses that you need to take. So we're talking about 3 programs here today. So we're going to talk about if you wanted the early childhood and early childhood special education track, which is this first program, or if you want the elementary and special education licensure track dual, which is called ESEE, or if you want to go straight for the bachelor's in special education. Okay, so we're going over 3 different programs. The requirements are the same up here. Everybody needs to take a Hawaiian Studies 107, and they need to take SPED 304. Where it can get a little tricky is depending on the specific program you want, there's other courses that might be involved, okay? So for the early childhood and early childhood special education, they have to take the Math 111, 112. They have to take HDFS 230 or Psych 240. They have to take the STE 360, which is that multicultural course. And the only one that is very, very unique to early childhood is this STE 318. So if you are looking at early childhood, you'll want to take the STE 318. For the elementary and special education dual, it's the exact same requirements as elementary only. So if you've been looking at pursuing an elementary program, they all have the same requirements, which includes that Math 111, 112, the HDFS 230, Psych 240, the ST 360, and then they also have this Ed Foundations 310 or 315 and this Ed Psychology 311. Highly, highly, highly recommended that you take it ahead of time. However, if you haven't, it's possible maybe you could take it in the summer, as long as that's the only thing that's left and you have everything else. Okay. But we highly recommend that you get that done ahead of time. For the bachelor's in special education, it's actually has the least like specialized coursework requirements. And so they'll take any math class, 100 level or above, and there's no additional prerequisites needed. So that one's a little bit simpler in terms of prerequisite courses. If you haven't already, all BED students should be meeting with one of our academic advisors. We call it the Office of OSAS, the Office of Student Academic Supports. Our academic advisors are the ones who can go through all of these eligibility requirements. They can look over your transcripts. They can help you decide, do you meet the eligibility? Do you not? And help you map that out. So if you have not met with an academic advisor yet, that's something that you're going to want to do as soon as possible. And so I have the website over here, and they have lots of different options for meeting with them. And I also have their contact information at the very end of the slide. So just know if you haven't yet met with them, please do, because they can really help you map out whether or not you have all the eligibility requirements met or not. I also have a little statement. Some of you have been in education a long time, maybe as like an EA or a sub or things like that. You might have heard of the Praxis Core way back in the day, which used to be like an entrance exam you needed to get in the program. I'm just going to let you know that that's no longer required. So you don't have to take that reading, writing, math Praxis exam to get in. As long as you have these other things that are listed on the left, then you should be fine. Now, if some of you are still kind of in the earlier stages, and you're working on the first 2 years of coursework, these are some of those associate degrees that I had mentioned that we already have a very nice streamlined partnership with the different community colleges. So if you're starting from square one, look at one of those options and then definitely talk to one of our academic advisors and they can help you with that. If you have a couple straggling courses you still need to take, like SPED 304, Math 111, 112, what's really nice is our partners over at UH Maui College got a grant, and their grant is to just help people in the state become teachers. And so if you do have any leftover courses that you haven't been able to take yet, I highly recommend, we'll give you the slides at the end of today's session. I highly recommend you look at the Ho'opili Teacher Pathway Program because their grant is offering a lot of the prerequisites that we have for our programs for free, and they're all online. And so if you still need to take that SPED 304, for example, they'll probably be offering another funded one this coming summer. So you can look into that and reach out to them if you still need to take those specific courses. All right, but let's go and talk about our programs. So our mission and vision here in the College of Ed is a sense of purpose and a sense of place. We're really looking at when you come through one of our programs, are you going to be prepared, right? Knowledgeable? Are you going to be effective and learn how to teach? And then really, are you a caring individual who's really going to make an impact to the students that you serve, right? So this is kind of what we do and kind of grounds us. You know, our programs are for Hawaii, so we're locally committed and globally prepared. And so just think of it that in that sense that, we are very connected to the Hawaii public schools and out in our community. So when you do our programs, we have special partnerships in place with the schools that we work with. And then one thing, you're going to take your classes, right? And you'll get graded in your classes. We're going to put you in a school, and you're going to practice teaching in a school. And the other thing that's really important to know is something called professional dispositions. Professional dispositions are college-wide dispositions that basically says whether we like it or not, teachers are held to a higher standard in society, right? You're entering a career. It's not just a job, right, that you clock in and out of. And so as a teacher, there are certain professional characteristics that, you're going to need to have to be a good teacher. And so on the left side is our old version of our professional dispositions, and on the right side is our newer, revamped version. But think of it this way. The program is going to design to help you bloom into the teacher that you're going to need to be for your students. And so outside of just getting good grades in your classes, it really is about being responsible, right? You need to show up to class on time because what's going to happen when you have your own classroom? Are you going to be late and have all your students sitting outside? That can't happen, right? So we kind of exude and really try to model these expectations while you're in the program as well. Um, being able to collaborate. You're going to be working with lots of other people as a teacher, right? And so are you able to establish those relationships? Are you able to work with them? Are you going to be culturally, aware and sensitive and design things that are going to be good for your students and the community that you serve? And then the last thing is reflection, right? I think reflection is a really big piece of what we do here in the College of Education. So it's not like just being able to write the perfect lesson. It's, even if that lesson doesn't go the way you thought it would go, we really want to support people in thinking of becoming a good teacher is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And so we're going to try our best to give you the skills that you're going to need to constantly reflect and grow. I'm going to open it up to some of my colleagues. Anybody want to add anything related to professional dispositions? Yeah, good. Okay. Oh, so I also put this here because people are like, well, what is the interview about? Right? And why do I have to do an interview? Just know that, the interview is usually kind of tied to these things, your oral communication skills, your professionalism, right? Things like that. So that's kind of like a little tip in terms of when you're preparing for your interview, you don't need to go study a book, right? It's really going to be about you and what you're bringing related to these kinds of concepts. Okay, so there's some foundational elements of the way that our programs are designed that are going to be there no matter which of these programs you pick, right? So no matter which one you want, so you'll see these little check boxes here on the left. All three of the programs that we're talking about today use a cohort model. And what that means is when you get admitted into the program, you're going to get admitted as a family. And all the students are going to matriculate from the first semester all the way to graduation together. Um, it's an amazing experience. It's my favorite thing of what UH Manoa does that none of the other ones really do. Because now, because it's cohorted, your program is designed so much more intentionally, right? Like they've put thought into what goes into your first semester versus what goes in your second semester, your third. It's not just a long list of courses that you're just going to have to navigate and check the box once it's done. Everything is really tied together and builds upon one another so that that foundation for becoming a teacher is just that much stronger because we know what everybody took in the first semester so we can build on it in the second. Um, your classes are reserved for your cohort. Gone are the days where you have to like mark in your calendar when registration opens and try to get that course that you need before it fills up. No, once you're in our cohorted programs, all of your courses are already reserved for your cohort. So it'll always be there. You're not going to run into any of those like scary bumps along the way. Um, and so because of this design, what we have found is our graduation rates are exceptionally high, including on time, meaning if it's designed to be completed in 2 years, then you can complete it in 2 years because we very intentionally designed it that way. And so the thing that we do lose is a little bit of the flexibility. That's why we don't enroll every semester, right? Because we can't open in spring because everyone's kind of doing it all together and the courses are offered in a certain sequence. So that's one downside. And then the other is, you know, we can try to work case by case if you go off sequence, but one of the benefits of a cohort model is every cohort has a faculty coordinator, a cohort coordinator. A lot of the people that are with us in this session today are cohort coordinators, which means they're the faculty members that takes care of their cohort, and their goal is to get them successfully through to graduation, right? So it's really nice as a student in our program because you're really not doing it alone. You have all the people that you're doing the program with, and you even have dedicated faculty who know you and are going to stay with you through to the end. And so I think the experience of going through a cohorted program is just unmatched compared to just being in a program where you're just checking the boxes. Okay. If any of my colleagues want to jump in and say anything else, by any means, just let me know. Okay, another thing that no matter which of our programs you pick, we're field-based. That means we don't like make you read a textbook chapter to chapter and just take tests and like call it a day, right? Our hope is that when you're learning things in your program, you need to be in a classroom so you can apply it and you can practice it and you can use it rather than it just being test-based, right? So we're not that model of teacher preparation. We're a field-based program. That means you're going to expect to be in a classroom working with the students at the whatever level or age or content area that you're getting licensed in. You're going to have a mentor teacher who's there to guide you and support you and kind of show you the ropes and build up your skills over time. It's our job, it's the cohort coordinator's job, to find a school and a mentor. So you don't do those things. You don't have to go out and find it yourself. We do that. We have lots of amazing partnerships already with the schools, and we need to make sure that whatever you're placed in matches what you're getting licensed in. Um, and so really it's going to start out less in the beginning. So you can imagine in your first year, usually, or the first 3 semesters, it's about 2 days a week, rule of thumb, that you would be in a classroom practicing. And then your final semester is that full-time student teaching where you are thinking, breathing, being, acting, doing all the things that are required of being a teacher. I did make a note that we do have one program here called ESCE, which is that elementary and SPED. They have very unique field experiences that are going to be different than any of the other tracks in the College of Education. And so, if you go to that breakout session, you can learn more about what they do in their field that looks a little bit different. But I will also say there might be some of you who are already working in schools, especially if like you're an educational assistant. If that's the case, you always want to reach out to us as early as possible, kind of share your situation because certain programs, specifically ones that are called statewide programs, may be able to accommodate those who are working in schools. It's a case-by-case approval process, and we're really looking at two major things. Does the age group match what you're getting licensed in? So, for example, you can't pursue early childhood and be working in a fifth grade classroom, right? Vice versa. You can't be in an elementary school and get licensed at secondary. It's just, that's not allowed. It's not our rule. The licensure board will not give you a license. So the age group has to match, and the subject matter of what you're teaching has to match. So, for example, elementary, special education, right? You'd have to be in an appropriate setting in order for that to work. And like I said, that's something that cohort coordinator would, work with you to figure out, does it work? Does it not work? Right? And what kind of options might be available. And while that might seem humbug and you just I wish I could just use my position and do the program, I will say, because it's a licensure requirement, remember, you're not just getting licensed in Hawaii. Technically, you're getting licensed for the whole country, right? Because you can take that license. So that's why these standards are there. I have heard of other programs that were kind of just letting students do whatever. And then when the licensure board found out, they took all those licenses away. So we do everything up front. We don't want anybody to get in a situation where they're not going to get their license. And so that's why we are a little bit more particular and we want to meet with you and talk to you and hear about your situation because at the end of the day, it is a state licensure requirement. So if you are employed, just reach out and then we can talk story about whether or not that sounds like it's something that's doable within a statewide program. Okay, so what does statewide mean? So, statewide is a design of our licensure programs that's different than our traditional campus-based programs. So, like the elementary and SPED ESCE program is a campus-based program. It's the traditional model of you need to be on campus, in classes, you're in person, and you have classes together at Manoa. Um, if some of you don't live on Oahu, then that could be really hard, right? Or maybe you live super far away, or maybe you're working. If that's the case, then you might want to consider one of our other options, which is the early childhood and early childhood SPED or the special education degree, because both of those are statewide. And what that means is now you're doing your classes online using Zoom, typically early evenings, exactly around this time. So we usually do 4:30 to 7 o'clock p.m. for our classes. That can vary a little by program, but that's the idea. And most of it's online. And then what's nice is we have everyone fly over from all the neighboring islands, and we do meet on campus a couple times in person at UH and have some of that face-to-face classes. But it's normally just on a weekend. Sometimes it's a Saturday only. And so people can fly in the morning and fly out at the end of the day, or they can stay the whole weekend, right? At the end of the day, you're going to get anyone who has to fly over to attend one of our in-person sessions, they will get a travel reimbursement stipend, which means afterwards we'll give you a certain amount of money back. Usually it's around $175 per trip. So you'll want to take that into account for the fact that you're going to come over to Manoa just a couple times. If you're on Oahu, then that just means you got to drive in on a Saturday and have class together. But it's really nice. It's nice to all the people you see in boxes like what we see right now. It's nice to come together and be in person at least a little bit, right, throughout your program. And this also allows us to bring everybody together at the very end for our own College of Ed graduation, which we call convocation. So everyone flies over, no matter where you live in the state, you can be here and graduate with your cohort. Okay. The last thing that's pretty unique is we do offer what we call dual certification options. And so you'll see we have two duals that we're going to cover today, the early childhood SPED, and the elementary and special education. Basically, what that means is now in the same program, same amount of time, you can get licensed in two areas. So, um, you're not only getting licensed in two areas, but you're learning and you're specializing in two different areas, right? So you're getting coursework and knowledge from faculty on both of those areas. And at the end of the day, when you graduate, now you have more job options because you could take jobs in either one. So when you see our programs, anytime it says and or has a little plus sign, then that means that that's a dual licensure program. And we're the only institution in the state who offers dual licensure. So if you want to take advantage of something like that, then you should look at one of our dual licensure options. I'm sorry the picture is blurry, but props to anyone who can find me because I'm a dual licensure graduate, and that's my particular cohort. I looked a lot younger back then, but dual is really nice. Personally, it worked out well for me. Okay. So before we go into breakout groups and let you kind of dive deeper into the different programs we offer, I do want to go over some funding. So the current tuition rate at UH Manoa is $471 a credit. But the most exciting and wonderful thing that is currently in place is that UH Manoa has a full-time tuition cap. And what that means is As a full-time student, once you hit 12 credits in a semester, everything else is free. Okay. So you're gonna pay $5,652 for the whole semester, regardless if you're taking 12 credits, 15 credits, 16 credits, 18 credits. Okay. This didn't exist for our online programs until now. So those who are applying right now, what's nice is even if you're doing a statewide program, you will also be able to utilize the Manoa 12 credit tuition cap. This will save you a lot of money, especially when we're thinking dual certification. Yes, you might be taking an extra class every semester, but guess what? It's free. Okay. So you can take advantage of that. Huge difference if you're not a resident, by the way. It's about more than 3 times the cost. So hopefully all of you guys are residents, so that you can take advantage of the resident tuition rate. Otherwise, it is $1,389 a credit. Um, I will also say, so it's really important to understand this. There is a 12 credit tuition cap for the Manoa day students who are taking classes through Manoa and on campus. And then there's a 12 credit statewide online for outreach. If you start mixing across the two, it's not going to count. Okay, so if you're an Oahu student who's enrolled in face-to-face classes and you're like, well, I want to take one online class, and you go through outreach, you're going to have to pay for that class. You're not going to be able to take advantage of the 12 credits. So just be careful if you're on Oahu. If you want to take advantage of this, you've got to stay within the day school when you're registering for all your classes. Statewide, you don't have a choice. You're going to take all of your classes statewide, so it's okay. You're going to go through outreach for all of them, so it should apply. It's just the Oahu Manoa people that I'm a little nervous that they might accidentally take extra classes and then they're going to have to pay for it. Okay, but we have a lot of funding available. Starting big picture, we need teachers nationally. It's not just Hawaii. So federal student aid, you're filling out your FAFSA will give you access to a lot of amazing, not only just loans, but for teaching, they have some federal programs that you can take advantage of. So if you're not yet at the last 2 years of college and you're starting from day one and you're going to start at a community college, please fill out your FAFSA because you can get the Hawaii Promise Scholarship, which will cover some of your tuition at the community college before you transfer to Manoa. But for those at Manoa, the ones that I want you to be aware of is there is something called a Teach Grant. So the Teach Grant will give you up to $8,000 through your FAFSA package, and you get it while you're enrolled. As long as you're going to teach in a high need field, which would be special education, and you're at a high need school, which means a school that's designated as Title I. If you can teach special education in a Title I school, then you may qualify for the Teach Grant, which will give you $8,000 as part of your financial aid packet. You'll want to look into the specific details. There's a GPA requirement, things of that nature. But if you see that when you fill out your FAFSA and they offer it to you, as long as you're willing to teach special education in a Title I school, then you can take it. Very similar to that is something called federal teacher loan forgiveness. If you just teach one extra year, so now you're going from 4 years to 5 years, what's nice about the loan forgiveness is you need to put it in the back of your brain and come back to it. You don't do it now, but after you've taught 5 years, special education, Title I school, then you can actually wipe out up to $17,500 of any loans that you still have. Okay. Or you could use this for your master's degree. So that's what I did. So I used the federal teacher loan forgiveness. As soon as I hit my 5th year as a special education teacher, I applied for it and wiped out all the loans that I had taken out for my master's. Okay. If that doesn't work, then the fallback plan federally is called public service loan forgiveness. As a teacher, you're considered public service if you're going to work in the public school system. Their program says if you pay the minimum balance towards your loans for 10 straight years, they'll just wipe out whatever's left. Okay, so that's the fallback plan. Um, but hopefully you won't have that many loans, and that's because we have tons of scholarships, whether they're federal related, whether they're at the state level, whether they're UH system scholarships, or we have specific to Manoa, and we even have 57 scholarships specific to the College of Education. We have lots of scholarships. It's really just a matter of finding them and applying for them. And so what we did is we tried to curate all the funding that we were aware of and stick it on that website. So coe.hawaii.edu/funding. Please start there. You'll find the financial aid information. You'll find everything that we know of about funding related to education. Apply widely. I will also say you want to apply now. You don't want to wait until you're admitted into the program. You want to apply when you're applying to the program. Okay, so some people have made the mistake that they're waiting to hear back of their admissions decision. But no, you want to apply at the same time. And then what'll happen is when they award it, they'll just make sure that you've been admitted, right? So don't forget to start also applying for scholarships, filling out your FAFSA at the same time that you're applying to the program itself. And then one of the most unique and amazing funding opportunities we have is not at the federal level, it's specific to our state and the partnership that the Department of Special Education has with the Hawaii public school system. And that is what we call our special education stipends. And so the three programs that we're going to go over today all take advantage of this particular stipend. Basically, you just have to be able to promise two things: that you're going to stay in Hawaii and that you're going to teach in a special education position for at least 3 years after you graduate from the program. If you can do those two things, then you can take this funding. The way this funding works is you don't actually have to apply for it. They are going to offer it to you upon acceptance into one of these programs that we're talking about today. So if you apply to one of these tracks and you get admitted as part of your admission packet, they're going to say, would you like to take the special education stipend? What's amazing about it is now the money comes to you upfront while you're enrolled. So you just have to sign a promissory note saying, I promise I'm going to stay in Hawaii and I'm going to teach as a special education teacher in a public school. And as long as you can do that, you're going to get the money up front. The amount you get is going to be different by program, and I'm going to break it down for you afterwards. But just know that if you're doing a dual licensure, it's going to cover about half to three-fourths. And if you're going to do the BED in special education, because it's special education only, it covers, you'll have enough money to cover the whole program. Okay. You don't need to apply. And another thing I do want to point out is it doesn't change where or how you get hired. They're not going to come in and say, because you took the stipend, you have to teach here. No, you're going to go through the exact same hiring process that you would otherwise. Just know that it does need to be a public school and it does need to be a special education position in order to get it. And you have to teach for at least 3 years. Okay. This is also renewed on a yearly basis, but this is our 20th anniversary of having these stipends. So we've had them for 20 years. So yes, we've trained a lot of teachers through this pathway. I personally also have a federal grant. We call it Project Equal Access. There are 2 more years left on this grant. So if you're applying now, you can take advantage. And even if you have to apply next year, you can still take advantage. This is just additional funding to help cover other costs other than tuition. So if you're living on Oahu, you can get $1,350 from this. And if you're on a neighbor island, because you have additional costs related to traveling for the face-to-face, we threw in some extra. So you would get $1,600. You don't have to do anything except be in the program and graduate. This is supposed to help make sure that you don't run into any other barriers. So books, technology, travel for face to face. We will prioritize, diversity, right? If you're multilingual, if you're Native Hawaiian, Filipino, Pacific Islander, you'll get priority. But the reality is we have a lot of money and we've already awarded 138 of these scholarships. So please apply when it comes down and your coordinator shares it with you. As long as you're in one of our special education licensure programs, then you can take this additional funding. Okay, so what will this look like? Here's just an example. Let's say you're interested in the early childhood and early childhood SPED program. It's a 69 credit program. You have 4 semesters in a summer. So if you take that $5,652 per 4 semesters, which means the 12 credit cap, right? That's about 22,000. You got to add in the additional 6 credits of courses you have to take in the summer. So that's $2,000. But if you take the special education stipend, they'll give you 36 credits of tuition. If you take the Project Equal Access Scholarship, you'll get between 1,350 or 1,600. And if you apply for your FAFSA and qualify for the Teach Grant, then you'll get another $8,000. Those three alone will cover all of your tuition costs for this program, and you'll have about $1,000 extra that you can apply towards other things. Okay. Let's say you're interested in the elementary and special education program, ESEE. Now all of your courses are in those 4 semesters. So it's only $22,000. Your special education stipend is 33 credits worth. You can take the Project Equal Access Scholarship for 1,350 because you're on Oahu. And the Teach Grant, again, fully paid for. And now you have $2,285 extra that you can apply towards other things like books and things of that nature. And let's say you go for just special education and you're looking at the BED in special education. So there's your 4 semesters of your 12 credit cap. They do also have 2 summer classes, so you add that in, but they get 60 credits of tuition. So that covers more than enough because of the tuition cap and you're not paying all those extra credits. And you can get the Project Equal Access Scholarship. And if you really wanted to, take the Teach Grant as well. If you took it all, not only are you not paying tuition, you could have about $12,000 applied to other things. So at the end of the day, special education, if that's something you're interested in, you want to get licensed in that, there's a lot of funding support out there to make sure that that's not going to be a barrier to you joining this profession. Okay. All right, so that was a lot from me. Sorry, I went over time. I'm going to hand it off to the different program coordinators for those 3 programs. And just real quickly, so again, we have 3 that we're going to cover today, the early childhood and early childhood special education. You see a little plus sign, that means it's dual licensure for preschool to grade 3. It is a statewide program, meaning you can take it from anywhere in the state. And then you have a stipend. The biggest difference I do want to point out is that it only enrolls in even years. So this one is not accepting applications right now. You would have to wait for next year. And so we have our coordinator, Dr. Michael Sheehy, and I'll have him introduce himself.
Just Michael Shea.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
Michael Sheehy, sorry.
That's all good. Yeah, thank you. Hi, thank you for coming. It's very nice to meet you. As Janet mentioned, I'm the program coordinator for the early childhood special ed program. Also, as she mentioned, unfortunately, we have a current cohort that's progressing through the program, so admission to our program won't occur again until fall 2026. That said, our program is unique in the fact that we are preparing you in the field of early childhood education as well as early childhood special education. Placement opportunities can range from private early childhood education centers to special education placements on Department of. Our program is intense, but we feel very, very worth it in terms of the content and the information you acquire in order to be prepared to work in the field of early childhood ed and early childhood special ed. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Shihei. Okay, and then next we have the elementary and special education dual, otherwise known as exceptional students in elementary education, ESEE. This is for dual licensure for elementary and elementary sped K to 6. You do need to be living on Oahu to complete this program. And so I'll hand it over to Dr. Farley.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for making the time to come today. I think, like Janet said, this is more of what you're thinking of when you think of your typical, more undergrad in-person program. But we do have a lot of really cool field experiences. If you are interested in hearing more about it, you can come to the breakout rooms that we're going to have in just a few minutes. Um, we go through its cohorts, and you'll be recommended for licensure, like Janet said, in elementary education and special education. I just want to take a second to mention a really common myth, and that is if you don't know if you want to teach elementary or special education, you think you want to go elementary, but you're afraid to get the special ed licensure because you'll be stuck teaching special education. If that is what your principal forces you to do, that's not a school you want to work at anyway. We've had a lot of graduates that just want to be better prepared for teaching students, teaching their all of their diverse learners. So they want to go through our program, but stick with being an elementary educator. And that's great. And they've gone on to do just that. This program produces teacher candidates who are highly marketable when you graduate. I have principals texting me February of every year saying, "Who do you have graduating? We want to know who's coming out of your program." So, like Mike's program, it's rigorous, but you are getting two licenses, so it's worth it.
Awesome. And then our third option is the Bachelor's of Education in Special Education, which has two tracks. You can do a secondary, mild, moderate at the middle and high school level, or you could do extensive support needs, otherwise known as severe disabilities and autism, and you can choose your grade level. So early childhood, elementary, or secondary. This one is exclusively, you will get licensed in special education only, but it is a statewide program. And like we had mentioned, the stipend does cover all tuition costs now that the 12 credit tuition cap has been applied. And I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Kelly.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I think Janet, you covered it pretty well, but yeah, it's a statewide program. We're relatively new to the state of Hawaii still, but our program is, I think, really serving unique needs across the state of Hawaii because of the, small communities on our neighbor islands. And so we have a lot of students who play an outsized role in their communities in this program. And I also want to emphasize that this program, because it is a bachelor's level program, we have a lot of EAs or educational assistants and even RBTs, registered behavior technicians in our program. So if that's you and you're interested in, stepping up a little bit and becoming a teacher of record, I think our program is for you.
All right, perfect. So Steve, let's go ahead and actually move into the breakouts. So what we're going to do is there are going to be breakout rooms with each of these coordinators so that you can go in and just dive deeper into the program that you're most interested in. And so if you haven't done this before, this is great practice for if you ever engage in one of our classes online. Depending on your Zoom and how recently it's been updated, you should be able to pick which room you want to go in and then go into it. Otherwise, if you don't see an option or you don't know how to get that done, just type in the chat which room you'd like to be sent in to, and we can manually do that for you. So is it ready, Steve?
Yeah, if you just click on breakout rooms, they should be there at the bottom, and then you can join whichever. Hopefully, you guys know which acronym is for which one. So Mike's one is the first one. Cindy's one, the dual prep face-to-face program is the ESEE. And then the online BED is the next one. That's the one that Dre and Sherry oversee.
And I'm gonna pause the recording if I can find it right here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the application. So, the deadlines will always be the same every year. So whether you're applying this year or you're going to apply next year or the year after that, just always mark these in your calendar. So our priority deadline is always on February 1st. Priority is not the best term. Just consider it an early admission deadline. You know, if you get it in by February 1st, what that means is you'll be invited to the first round of interviews if you're doing an interview, and hopefully you would learn of your admissions decision earlier. But at the end of the day, all applications that come in by the final March 1st deadline will be reviewed. So we will always consider all applications that come in. It's just we'll have an early round of reviews and then a final round of reviews. So you do have until March 1st if you would like to start one of our cohorts in the fall. And so the two programs that are accepting applications right now would be the BED in special education and the BED in exceptional students in elementary and education. And like we mentioned earlier, the only one that is not enrolling will be the early childhood and early childhood special education, because that one will open up next year along with the other two as well. So the other two will enroll every year. Now, here's the thing. So applications are going to differ slightly by program. So when I give you the link to these slides, always just refer to the how to apply page attached to the program that you're interested in. The reason for that is it's going to link you to the correct applications, and it gives you a little bit of additional information related to how to best fill out some of these application forms, because they can get a little confusing at times. And so you just want to make sure that you're following the right steps. But basically, everybody is gonna have to complete what we call MACALE, which is the College of Education application. It's a free application. It's more detailed, specific to our teacher licensure programs. This is the application where you are gonna upload, you know, your 40 hours of group leadership form. You're gonna write that essay, and depending on what type of interview you're doing, you'll find the information in the checklist here. So if you're doing one of our elementary-based programs, which would be the Exceptional Students in Elementary Ed dual or the Early Childhood SPED dual, they will do an actual group interview, live interview. They give you a date, they give you a time, whether it's online or it's in person, you come together and you're going to do an interview as part of the admissions process. That comes after you apply. So you have to apply first to get invited to the interview. Okay, so don't wait for it and say you can't apply, because they need your application first. If you're applying for the bachelor's in special education, we actually have a system where you can record your answers to your interview on your own time. And so we call it the video recorded responses and essay. It's through a system called VidCruiter. And basically, because again, a lot of the people that apply to that program are working, right, full time in schools, and our faculty teach in the evenings. And so instead of trying to coordinate a day and a time, we just we use technology to get that done. And so if you do apply to the B&D and SPED, just know that we already recorded all the questions that we would have asked in person, and you just go in and you record yourself answering them. And then all all of our interviewees, whether you do the in person through the elementary or you do the recorded version through special education, there's always going to be an essay component at the end. We want to see your writing skills. And so whether you're just going to sit there and type an essay at the end of your interview, and we use that more to just kind of see, are you going to need additional writing supports? If so, then we'll look into how to provide that, especially because we have a lot of people who haven't written essays in a while, right? They might need to brush up on it a little. So just try your best, but make sure that you complete whatever you need to do for your interview and also that essay component. What's really nice is once you start your MACALE application, you should auto receive a very detailed email that outlines all the steps of the application process. So, rather than waiting and thinking I'm not going to apply until everything is ready, I highly encourage just working on your application as you go. You can come back to it, you can log in, you make an account, you can come back in as many times as you need to, so you don't need to just sit down and do it all in one go. So I always tell people start early. Start working on it, get familiar with it, and then just work through it and try to hit that February 1st priority deadline. And if not, definitely submit it before March 1st. I can't help you after that, right? And because we only enroll in fall, you're waiting a whole other year to apply. So just don't save it for the last minute. Please get it in as early as possible. I know some of you did, so good job. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing. If you're already a UH Manoa student, then that's all you need to do is the College of Ed application. But we have a lot of people who are transferring from the community college or they haven't been in school for a while. If that's the case, you have to also apply to UH Manoa directly. There is a $70 application fee, but what's really nice is just as of 2 years ago, they made it free for Hawaii residents. So there is a way to say that I'm a Hawaii resident and submit that. And then what they do is they'll take off the $70 application fee so you don't have to pay for it. So it is free. And it's only for those who aren't already UH Manoa students. Now, what's crazy is you can apply. Both of these applications need to come in by that deadline. It doesn't matter which one comes first, which one comes second. They both need to be submitted. So don't submit Manoa and wait, right? And then try to apply for the College of Ed. Apply to both of them because we will base our admissions decision on having received both. And so again, even the UH Manoa one allows you to log in as many times as you need. The tricky part about that is let's say you have a UH email account. And so you go into the UH Manoa app and you put it in your email and your password and you try to start it and it says, sorry, you don't have an account. People are like, oh, why? Maybe I forgot my password or something. No, it's actually because the application system is separate from UH Manoa. And so there's a little button underneath that says to create an account first. And even if you have a UH email, you need to create an account for your UH email in order to get into that application system. So just pointing that out because some people get very confused as to why it's not working. It looks like it's UH Manoa, but it's actually a different system that the applications are going through. So you are more than welcome to use your hawaii.edu email or a personal one. Doesn't matter, just always choose create an account first. Okay. If anything happens and you get stuck, you're confused, you're not quite sure what to do, please reach out to me or Steve. I am going to host a very last, like right at the end, February 26th, a couple days before the deadline. I'm just going to leave my virtual office open for anybody who needs help with their application. So hopefully you guys can get it done ahead of time. But if not, and you run into anything, join me on February 26th. So Jure had to leave. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of this. Oh, here's the academic advising information if you need to meet with them. And then we have Steve and Mai's contact right here. So let me get the link to these slides. And I'm going to stick it in the chat for you guys. Okay, so go ahead. You can view the slides that were shared today. Otherwise, it's 5:32. Go have some dinner. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll stay on a couple minutes in case anyone has questions, but otherwise, we appreciate that you took the time to come. And then, yeah, just reach out if you need anything else. And thank you to my colleagues for joining today. Okay, so I'm gonna stop.
Thanks, you guys.